The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the deserted highway. I was cycling home from a friend's house, enjoying the quiet solitude of the ride. As I rounded a bend, I spotted an old woman sitting on the side of the road. She was hunched over, her hands resting on her knees, and her face was obscured by the brim of her wide-brimmed hat. I slowed down to pass her, feeling a twinge of concern. What was she doing out here all alone, so late at night? As I rode by, I glanced at her, but her face was still hidden from view. I continued on my way, but the image of the old woman lingered in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about her. The way she was sitting, so still and lifeless, sent a chill down my spine. I tried to push the thought out of my head, but it kept creeping back in. As I rode on, I started to hear a faint humming sound. It was a low, mournful tune that seemed to come from nowhere. I tried to ignore it, but it grew louder and more insistent. I started to feel a growing sense of dread. I reached for my phone, but it was gone. I couldn't remember where I had put it. Panic began to set in as I realized I was alone, stranded in the middle of nowhere. I looked in the rearview mirror to check for traffic, but the road was empty. The humming sound was now deafening, and I could feel a cold presence closing in on me. I looked back again, and this time I saw her. The old woman was sitting in the back seat of my car, her eyes glowing red in the darkness. She smiled at me, a wide, sinister grin that showed her jagged, yellow teeth. I screamed in terror, but my voice was lost in the wind. I tried to turn the car around, but the steering wheel was locked. I was trapped. The old woman reached out to me, her long, bony fingers clawing at my face. I tried to fight her off, but she was too strong. She pulled me closer and closer, her icy breath freezing my skin. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. But it never came. I opened my eyes and found myself sitting on the side of the road. The old woman was gone, and the humming sound had stopped. I was safe. I don't know what happened to me that night. Was it a dream? A nightmare? Or was it something real? I'll never know for sure. But one thing is certain, I'll never forget the old woman on the deserted highway. The ride home was long and silent. I kept my eyes on the road, afraid to look in the rearview mirror. I didn't want to see her again. Finally, I reached my house. I got off my bike and ran inside, slamming the door behind me. I didn't look back. I'm still shaken by what happened that night. I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone. That she's still out there, waiting for me. I don't know if I'll ever ride my bike alone again. The air was heavy in our home, a suffocating mix of sadness, fear, and the lingering scent of disinfectant. My father, once a towering figure of strength and vitality, lay frail and gaunt in his bed, his body ravaged by the relentless assault of stage 4 esophageal cancer. I stood by his bedside, my heart aching with the weight of his impending demise. Our conversations had become shorter, his words slurred and labored, yet his eyes still held a spark of life, a flicker of defiance against the encroaching darkness. One evening, as I stood beside his bed, an inexplicable feeling of unease crept over me. The silence of the room seemed to amplify, pressing in on my ears, and an icy chill swept down my spine. Instinctively, I turned my head, my gaze drawn towards the doorway that led to the living room. There, in the dim hallway light, I saw it, a dark figure, crouching low, its form obscured by the shadows. It was tall and slender, perhaps 4 feet 6 inches in height, its body enveloped in an impenetrable darkness. Its hands, long and skeletal, clung to the door frame, like claws clutching at the edge of existence. A surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins, my heart pounding in my chest like a frantic drum. Without hesitation, I lunged towards the shadowy figure, my mind consumed by a primal urge to confront whatever lurked in the darkness. As I reached the doorway, the figure recoiled, its shadowy form melting into the gloom. I peered into the dimly lit hallway, my eyes straining to pierce the darkness, but there was nothing. The figure had vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence that sent shivers down my spine. I rushed back to my father's bedside, my mind reeling from the encounter. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with concern, his voice a hoarse whisper, "What's wrong, son?" I hesitated, unsure how to convey the inexplicable terror that had gripped me. "Dad," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper, "I saw something. There was a figure in the hallway. It was tall and dark, and it just disappeared." My father's eyes softened, a knowing glint in their depths. "It's the shadow, son," he said, his voice filled with a quiet understanding. "It's been here since before I got sick. I've seen it too." Relief washed over me as I realized I wasn't alone in my experience. My father's words, though laced with sadness, provided a sense of validation, confirming that what I had seen wasn't just a figment of my imagination. In the days and weeks that followed, the shadow continued to make its presence known. Others who stayed in our home during my father's final days reported seeing it too. My mother, my aunt, even the hospice nurses who cared for him. My mother, who had always been skeptical of such things, described the shadow as a dark presence, a feeling of unease that settled over her whenever it was near. She claimed to have seen it in multiple places throughout the house, always a fleeting glimpse in the corner of her eye or a sudden chill in the air. The shadow remained a constant presence in our home, a silent observer in the midst of our grief. It was never threatening, never malicious, but its presence served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the inevitable approach of death. As my father's strength waned and his days dwindled, the shadow seemed to grow closer, its presence more palpable. It was as if it was waiting, patiently watching as my father's life ebbed away. On the night of my father's passing, as we gathered around his bedside, the shadow was there, standing silently in the corner of the room. When my father took his last breath, a profound sense of peace settled over the room. The shadow, its task seemingly complete, retreated into the darkness, leaving behind a lingering chill and a profound sense of finality. We haven't seen the shadow since my father's passing. It remains a mystery, an unexplained phenomenon that forever intertwined with the memories of his final days. Perhaps it was a guardian angel, a spectral presence that watched over my father during his time of need. Or maybe, as my mother believes, it was simply the embodiment of our collective grief, a manifestation of the darkness that lingers in the wake of loss. Whatever its nature, the shadow left an indelible mark on our lives, a reminder of the unseen forces that intertwine with our existence. It served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the profound impact that death can have on those left behind. After graduating from college, I took the plunge into marriage, and with the reality of a tight budget, we found ourselves settling into a basement apartment. Little did we know that this seemingly ordinary dwelling harbored something far more sinister, a poltergeist that would turn our new life into a haunting experience. The signs began to manifest soon after we moved in. Dishes, glasses, and various items would inexplicably launch themselves off the shelves, as if propelled by an unseen force. My wife, in particular, became the target of these supernatural tantrums, enduring several instances of physical contact from the unknown presence that shared our living space. A prevailing sense of dread lingered in the air, a constant reminder that we were not alone. The apartment seemed to pulsate with an ominous energy, and the feeling of being watched became an unwelcome companion in our daily lives. However, it was the nights that proved to be the most unsettling. As we traversed our dimly lit apartment after dark, inexplicably bright flashes of light would pierce the darkness, illuminating the rooms with an intensity that defied explanation. Each occurrence served as a chilling reminder that we were sharing our home with something beyond the realm of the living. The breaking point came one fateful night when we were preparing to go to bed. Upon entering our bedroom, a disembodied voice echoed through the room, saying, "Jamie, move." The words hung in the air, leaving my wife and me frozen in disbelief. The gravity of the situation sunk in as we exchanged bewildered glances. Without hesitation, I responded aloud, "You've got it, bud." 2 days later, we packed our belongings and sought refuge with family, eager to escape the clutches of the paranormal entity that had taken residence in our lives. The elderly lady who owned the property passed away a few months later, and the house, tainted by the echoes of our unsettling experiences, was eventually torn down. To this day, the empty lot remains, marked only by the simplicity of grass and a solitary tree. I find myself driving by it from time to time, unable to shake the lingering memories of the basement apartment and the unexplained phenomena that forced us to abandon it. The ghostly whispers of that dwelling still echo in the recesses of my mind, a testament to a chapter in our lives overshadowed by the supernatural. The acrimony of my parents' divorce still hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the shattered family unit that had once been my world. As a teenager, I found myself caught in the crossfire, torn between 2 homes and 2 lives. I chose to live with my mother, a decision that would forever alter my perception of the world around me. Our flat, a modest 2-bedroom apartment in an older building, became the stage for a series of unexplained events. At first, they were subtle, almost imperceptible, a sudden chill in the air, a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye. But as the days turned into weeks, the paranormal activity intensified, growing bolder and more unsettling. The most frequent occurrence was the icy sensation that would sweep over me whenever I was alone in my room, particularly when I was engrossed in a book. It was as if an invisible presence had entered the room, a cold, malevolent entity that filled me with a sense of dread. Then came the feeling of being watched. It was a palpable sensation, an oppressive weight that settled upon my shoulders, as if a pair of unseen eyes were boring into me with a burning intensity. I would often turn around, my heart pounding in my chest, only to be met with the emptiness of my room. But the most terrifying encounters involved my beloved dog, a faithful companion who had been with me since I was a child. On several occasions, I would hear a deep growl emanating from under my bed, a guttural sound that sent chills down my spine. My dog, a small, gentle creature, was incapable of producing such a menacing growl. The sound was more akin to a large dog or, more chillingly, a man attempting to mimic a dog's bark. Other times, my dog would whimper and pace anxiously in the room next to mine, refusing to come when I called him. His behavior was unlike anything I had ever seen from him, as if he was sensing a presence far more sinister than anything I could perceive. The paranormal activity continued to escalate, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated and vulnerable. I longed for the comfort and familiarity of my father's home, a place where I had never experienced such strange occurrences. Finally, I could bear the constant fear and uncertainty no longer. I moved in with my father, seeking refuge from the unsettling events that had plagued my life at my mother's flat. To my immense relief, the paranormal activity ceased entirely upon my arrival at my father's house. The icy chills, the oppressive feeling of being watched, the ominous growls from under my bed, all of it vanished, leaving behind a sense of peace and tranquility that I had almost forgotten. I never fully understood the reason for the paranormal activity at my mother's flat. Was it a malevolent entity that preyed upon my fear and loneliness? Or was it something more personal, a manifestation of the unresolved emotions and turmoil that lingered in the wake of my parents' divorce? Whatever the explanation, the experience left an indelible mark on my psyche, a reminder of the unseen forces that can sometimes permeate our lives. It taught me the power of fear and the importance of seeking solace in the face of the unexplained. In the heart of a hospital's lockup unit, where the intersection of medicine and the supernatural seemed improbable, I found myself working as a forensic nurse. Little did I know, my journey in this realm would become entwined with the inexplicable, a tale marked by the haunting presence of a demonic force named Tiberius. Our patient, an older lady with a weary gaze, became the reluctant protagonist in a series of bizarre and terrifying events. She fervently claimed to be haunted and tormented by Tiberius, a malevolent entity that seemed to thrive on her suffering. The stories unfolded as we entered her room, conducted routine care, only to be summoned back moments later by her blood-curdling screams. To our bewilderment, the lady bore the physical scars of a battle unseen, a bloody lip, a black eye, and mysterious markings adorning her body. No one witnessed her inflicting these wounds upon herself. The room, a seemingly ordinary space, became the stage for an otherworldly conflict, leaving us grappling with the inexplicable. Objects defied reason, rearranging themselves in the room as if moved by an unseen hand. The paranormal occurrences escalated to a point where the medical team decided to place her in protective restraints, suspecting self-infliction. However, even within the confines of these restraints, new marks materialized, and her tray or cart would mysteriously relocate across the room. The room, fortified and secure, offered no explanation for the eerie happenings. There was an unsettling air, an aura of malevolence that lingered like an unspoken presence. The lady, when questioned about the source of her torment, offered only a cryptic response: it was Tiberius. Upon her discharge, the room refused to relinquish its connection to the supernatural. It became a focal point for unexplained disturbances, a harbinger of the uncanny. Rapid responses and codes seemed drawn to its threshold, as if the paranormal energy lingered long after its primary recipient had departed. One night, a guard reported an unsettling sight, a flickering play of lights in the very room where Tiberius had cast its ominous shadow. The inexplicable blinking, an electronic dance orchestrated by an unseen force, added a new layer of mystique to the room's haunted reputation. The legacy of Tiberius endured, casting a spectral veil over room 213. The inexplicable happenings remained etched in the memories of those who had tread within its confines. As a forensic nurse, I grappled with the duality of my profession, caught between the tangible realm of medicine and the intangible world of the supernatural. The spectral whispers of Tiberius echoed through the hospital corridors, a chilling reminder that some mysteries defy the logic of the living. Room 213, once a space of healing, became a testament to the enigmatic dance between the seen and the unseen, a realm where the lines between reality and the supernatural are blurred into an unsettling tapestry of the unknown.
Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on the latest true horror stories. Share your thoughts, reactions, and personal encounters in the comments section.